Captain Minho Park stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the stars through the main screen. 3 years had passed since humans first made contact with the Galactic Confederation. 3 long years of trying to prove they belonged. Among the stars, "Captain, we're getting a signal from Kepler Station," said Jun Lee from his position at the communications desk. His fingers moved quickly across the controls. "It's urgent." Minho walked over to Jun's station. The young tactical officer looked worried. Behind them, Dr. Hana Kim looked up from her research station, and Engineer Yuna Choi stopped working on her tablet. "What kind of signal?" Minho asked. "It's from the Vorthak research team. Something about an accident in their reactor room." Jun's face was pale. "Captain, they're asking for help, but the message is breaking up badly." Minho felt his stomach drop. The Vorthak were one of the 3 main species in the Confederation. They looked like tall, thin people made of living crystal. They were brilliant scientists, but they thought humans were too emotional and weak to be real members of the galaxy's community. "Put it on the main screen," Minho said. The image that appeared was fuzzy and filled with static. A Vorthak scientist appeared, his crystal body cracked and dim. Behind him, Minho could see other Vorthak moving around in panic. "Human ship. Need help. Kethlan trapped in reactor room. Stellar storm approaching. Have 6 hours before." The signal cut out completely. "Jun, how far are we from Kepler Station?" Minho asked. "About 4 hours at maximum speed, Captain. But there's a problem." Jun brought up a star chart on his screen. "There's a stellar storm system between us and the station. It's moving fast. And getting stronger." Hana Kim moved to stand beside Minho. "Captain, if that storm hits the station while their reactor is damaged, it could destroy the entire facility. Everyone on board would die." "How many Vorthak are on that station?" Minho asked. 12 researchers plus their support staff. Maybe 20 beings total," Yuna answered, reading from her tablet. Minho looked at the screen showing the storm system. It was huge, filled with dangerous energy that could tear apart any ship that got too close. Flying through it would be extremely dangerous, maybe impossible. "Captain," Jun said quietly, "we don't have to go. The Confederation rules say we're only required to help if it's safe to do so. No one would blame us for staying away from that storm." Minho thought about that. Jun was right. The Vorthak had never been friendly to humans. They often said humans were too weak and emotional to be trusted with important work. Some Vorthak leaders had even voted against letting humans join the Confederation. But then he thought about Kethlan. The Vorthak scientist had been trapped in the reactor room. He was probably hurt, maybe dying. And there were 19 other beings on that station who would die if no one helped them. "Set course for Kepler Station," Minho said. "Maximum speed." "Captain, are you sure?" Yuna asked. "That storm could kill us all." "I'm sure," Minho said. "We're not going to let them die just because it's dangerous." The next 4 hours were the longest of Minho's life. The Eternal Dawn flew as fast as it could toward the storm system. As they got closer, the ship began to shake from the energy waves coming off the storm. "Storm's getting stronger," Yuna reported. "If we go in there, I can't promise the ship will hold together." "The reactor on Kepler Station just went critical," Hana said, reading her sensors. "They have maybe 2 hours before it explodes." Minho made his decision. "We're going in. Everyone hold on." The Eternal Dawn entered the storm system. Immediately, the ship began shaking violently. Lights flickered on and off. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Hull stress is at dangerous levels," Yuna shouted over the noise. "We're taking damage to the outer sections." "Keep going," Minho said, holding onto his chair as the ship bucked like a wild animal. Energy wave incoming, June called out. Big one. A massive wave of stellar energy hit the ship. The lights went out completely for several seconds. When they came back on, smoke was coming from several control panels. Life support is damaged, Yuna reported. We have maybe 6 hours of air left. How much further to the station? Minho asked. 1 hour, June answered. They made it to Kepler Station with 30 minutes to spare. The station looked terrible. Parts of it were completely dark, and Minho could see damage to the outer hull. Hana, take your emergency medical kit. June, bring your repair tools. Yuna, you're with me, Minho ordered. We're going over to help them. The team put on their spacesuits and crossed to the station through the dangerous energy storms still raging around them. Inside, they found chaos. Most of the Vorthak were hurt, and their beautiful crystal bodies were cracked and dim. They found Kethlon in the reactor room. The Vorthak scientist was trapped under a piece of heavy machinery. His crystal body was badly damaged, and he was barely conscious. We need to get this off him, Minho said, looking at the heavy machine part. It's too heavy, Yuna said, even with all of us working together. Then we'll use the ship's tractor beam, Minho decided. Captain, that means moving the Eternal Dawn very close to the station, June said. With all this storm energy around us, the two ships could crash into each other. Do it anyway, Minho said. It took them 2 hours to get Kethlon free and stable. During that time, Hana worked to save the lives of the other injured Vorthok. Yuna and June worked together to fix the station's reactor before it could explode. When they finally got everyone to safety, the storm was starting to calm down. The Siu. Eternal Dawn was badly damaged, and they had used up most of their emergency supplies, but everyone was alive. Kethlon was conscious again, though still very weak. He looked at Minho with his large crystal eyes. Why? He asked in his musical Vorthak voice. Why did you risk your lives for us? We have not been kind to your species. Minho thought about the question. Because you needed help, he said simply. That's what people do for each other. People? Kethlon asked. All people, Minho said. Human, Vorthok, Nexari, Luminal, we're all people. 3 weeks later, Minho received a message from the Galactic Confederation Council. The Vorthak delegation had voted to support full membership for humanity. So had the Nexari and the Luminals. The message said that humanity had shown something the galaxy had never seen before: the willingness to risk everything for others, even those who had been unfriendly to them. Minho smiled as he read the message. He thought about Kethlon and the other Vorthak they had saved. Sometimes the most important thing you could do was simply show up when someone needed help, even if it was dangerous, even if it was hard, even if they might not do the same for you. That, Minho thought, was what made humans human. Colonel Sunho Bay walked through the main street of New Seoul Colony, watching his daughter Ha-Yun play with her friends in the Central Park. 7 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Confederation. 7 good years. The colony was beautiful. Human engineers had worked with Vorthak architects and Nexari gardeners to create something special. The buildings looked like they grew from the ground itself, and the parks were filled with plants from dozens of different worlds. She's getting so tall, said Nari, Sunho's wife, as she joined him on their evening walk. Nari worked as the colony's cultural liaison, helping the different species understand each other better. Just like her mother, Sunho said, putting his arm around Nari's shoulders. Smart like her, too. They watched as Hayun played a game with children from 3 different species. Human children ran alongside young Vorthak, whose crystal bodies sparkled in the sunlight. A few Nexari youth, connected to their hive mind but still individual enough to play, joined the group. "This is what we dreamed of," Nari said softly. "All of us living together in peace." Sunho nodded. As head of the Human Peacekeeping Corps, he had seen the good that humans could do in the galaxy. Just last month, his team had helped stop a war between 2 minor species over mining rights. Instead of fighting, they had learned to share the resources fairly. "Dad! Mom!" Heian ran over to them, her face bright with excitement. "Kessa taught me a new song. Want to hear it?" Kessa was her best friend, a young Vorthak whose family had moved to the colony 2 years ago. The song was in the Vorthak musical language, but Hayun sang it perfectly. "Beautiful," Nari said, hugging their daughter. "You're getting so good at Vorthak music. Kessa says I sing it better than most Vorthak children," Hayun said proudly. That night, after Hayun was asleep, Sunho sat in his office reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Human peacekeepers were working on 12 different worlds, helping solve problems that had existed for centuries. The galaxy was becoming a more peaceful place. A message came in on his secure communication system. It was from Captain Minho Park, now serving as Earth's representative to the Confederation Council. "Sunho." Minho's tired face appeared on the screen. "We need to talk. Something strange is happening in the council." "What kind of strange?" Sunho asked. "Some of the species are starting to ask questions about humans. They're saying we might be affecting other species in ways we don't understand." Sunho frowned. "Affecting them how?" "They think our emotional bonds might be somehow changing the way other species think and feel, making them more like us." Minho looked worried. "The Nexari are especially concerned. They say some of their hive nodes are starting to act too independently." "That's ridiculous," Sunho said. "We're not doing anything to anyone. We're just being ourselves." "I know. But there's talk of forming a committee to investigate. They call themselves the Purist Alliance." After the call ended, Sunho sat in his office thinking. He couldn't understand why anyone would be afraid of humans making friends with other species. Wasn't friendship a good thing? 3 months later, the first restrictions started. Human peacekeepers were no longer allowed to work alone with other species. All human cultural exchanges had to be supervised by Confederation officials. "They're treating us like we're dangerous," Nari said one evening. She had just returned from a meeting with the colony's governing council. "The Purist Alliance is saying we're a contamination risk." "What does that even mean?" Sunho asked. "They think human emotions are like a disease that spreads to other species. They say it's making everyone weak and irrational." Sunho felt angry, but he tried to stay calm. "We'll prove them wrong. We just need to be patient." But things got worse quickly. Reports started coming in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were being isolated. Human workers were being fired from their jobs. Human children were being removed from mixed-species schools. On New Sol Colony, the changes were slower but just as painful. Kessa's family was moved to a different part of the colony, away from humans. Hayun cried for days when she learned her best friend couldn't visit anymore. "Why can't I see Kessa?" Hayun asked her parents. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart," Nari said, holding their daughter close. "You didn't do anything wrong. Some grown-ups are just scared right now." "Scared of what?" Sunho looked at his wife, then at his daughter. "Scared of friendship, I think." The end came without warning. Sunho was in his office when the alarm started screaming throughout the colony. He ran to his communication system and saw ships in orbit above them, Confederation military vessels. "This is Admiral Vextar of the Purest Alliance Fleet," came a voice over the colony's speakers. "New Sol Colony has been found guilty of emotional contamination of non-human species. You have 1 hour to evacuate." "What?" Sunho couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Evacuate where?" He tried to call Minho on Earth, but all communications to human space had been cut off. He ran through the colony streets, helping organize the evacuation. Thousands of humans ran toward the evacuation ships, carrying whatever they could grab. "Where's Hyun?" Nari asked when she found Sunho at the evacuation point. "I thought she was with you," Sunho said, his heart starting to race. "She went to find Kessa. She wanted to say goodbye." They ran through the emptying colony, calling Hyun's name. They found her in the Vorthak section, standing outside Kessa's family's home. The young Vorthak was crying, her crystal body flickering with sad colors. "I don't want to say goodbye," Hyun said, tears running down her face. "We have to. Go, baby," Nari said, taking Hyun's hand. "Right now." As they ran toward the evacuation ships, Sunho looked back at the colony they had built. It had been beautiful. It had been home. The evacuation ships were old and crowded. Families were separated in the rush. Sunho managed to keep Nari and Hyun with him, but many others weren't so lucky. 30 minutes remaining," came the announcement. Sunho was helping load the last evacuation ship when he saw them. 3 Nexari children standing alone near the landing pad. They looked lost and scared. "Where are your parents?" he asked them. "They told us to wait here," one of them said. "But that was hours ago." Sunho looked around. The colony was almost empty now. Most of the alien residents had already been moved to other parts of the planet away from the humans. "Come on," he said to the Nexari children. "You can come with us." "But we're not human," one of them said. "Doesn't matter," Sunho said. "No one gets left behind." He was loading the Nexari children onto the ship when the bombing started. The first explosion came from the colony's power plant. The second destroyed the school where Hyun had learned to sing in Vorthak. "No!" Nari screamed, running toward the burning buildings. "There might be people still in there." Sunho ran after her, but the third explosion knocked them both to the ground. When he looked up, he saw Nari lying still, a piece of metal from the explosion in her chest. "Mom!" Hyun screamed, running to her mother. Sunho crawled to where Nari lay. She was still breathing, but barely. Blood was everywhere. "Take care of Hyun," she whispered to him. "Don't let her hate them." "You're going to be fine," Sunho said, even though he knew she wasn't. "Promise me," Nari said. "Don't let her hate." "I promise," Sunho said, tears falling on his wife's face. Nari smiled once more, then closed her eyes forever. The evacuation ships left New Sol Colony, carrying 3,000 humans and 3 young Nexari who had nowhere else to go. Behind them, the colony burned. Everything they had built together, all the friendships they had made, all the hope for the future, it was all gone. Sunho held his daughter as she cried. Hyun's face was cut from the explosion, and the scar would stay with her forever. But the deeper wounds, the ones no one could see, would take much longer to heal. On the ship, the 3 Nexari children sat alone in a corner. Other humans tried to comfort them, even though their own world had just ended. The children didn't understand why the humans were being kind to them when other aliens had just destroyed everything the humans loved. "Because that's what people do," Sunho heard one human tell them. We take care of each other. But as Sun Ho looked out the window at the burning colony below, he wondered if being good to others was worth it when the galaxy could be so cruel in return. For the first time in his life, he began to understand that love and hate might not be opposites at all. They might be the same thing, just pointed in different directions. Admiral Kyung Nam floated in the zero gravity of Asteroid Base 7, looking at the star charts that covered the metal walls. 15 years had passed since the destruction of New Sol Colony. 15 years since humanity had been forced back to their home system like animals returning to their cage. "The new ships are almost ready," reported Captain Dane Seo, floating up beside him. The brilliant scientist had dark circles under her eyes from years of working without rest. "The resonance weapons tested better than we hoped." Kyung nodded. Around them, the asteroid base buzzed with activity. Thousands of humans worked day and night, building weapons and ships that the galaxy had never seen before. They worked in secret bases hidden throughout the asteroid belt, places where no alien eyes could watch them. "Any word from Haeun?" Kyung asked. Dane's face darkened. "She's on Base 12 with her followers. They call themselves the Devoted now. Sunho is with them." Kyung felt sadness in his chest. Sunho had been his brother-in-law, married to his sister Nari. After Nari died in the bombing, Sunho had changed into someone Kyung barely recognized. And his daughter Haeun had become something even more frightening. "How many ships does she have now?" Kyung asked. 43 combat vessels, all equipped with the new weapons. Her people worship her, Kyung. They think she's some kind of prophet, sent to punish the galaxy for what happened to us. Through the base's windows, Kyung could see Earth in the distance. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, but he knew it was full of pain and anger. Billions of humans remembered the friends they had lost, the colonies that had been destroyed, the trust that had been broken. "Sir," came a voice over the communication system. "We have a visitor. It's Taemin O." Kyung sighed. Taemin was one of the few humans who still believed in peace with the galaxy. He had been Earth's last ambassador before the exile began. Taemin floated into the command center a few minutes later. He was older now, his hair gray and his face lined with worry. In his hand, he carried a data pad with messages from the outside. "Galaxy." "Kyung," Taemin said, "I've been talking to some of the moderate voices in the Confederation. They want to make peace. They're starting to realize that the Purist Alliance lied to them." "Too late for that," Kyung said coldly. "It's not. Too late. Look at these messages." Taemin activated his datapad. "Kethlan, the Vorthax scientist that Captain Park saved years ago. He's been investigating what really happened. He has proof that the evidence against us was fake." Kyung looked at the data. It showed communication records, financial transactions, and meeting schedules that proved the Purist Alliance had planned the attack on New Sol Colony months in advance. "They made up the story about emotional contamination," Taemin continued. "They were afraid that humans were becoming too important in the galaxy. They were afraid that other species liked us too much. So they destroyed our colony and killed my sister to make a point," Kyung said. His voice was quiet, but Dain could see the anger burning in his eyes. "If we show this evidence to the Confederation Council," Taemin started. "The Council won't listen," Kyung interrupted. "They had their chance to listen 15 years ago. They chose to believe lies instead of trusting us. But if we start a war—" "We're not starting anything," Kyung said. "We're finishing what they started." Taemin looked around the asteroid base, seeing the weapons and the ships and the thousands of humans preparing for war. This isn't what Nari would have wanted. Kyung's face went hard as stone. My sister is dead. She doesn't get to want anything anymore. After Taemin left, Kyung met with his top commanders. They gathered in the base's war room, where holographic displays showed every major alien colony and military base within 100 light years. The devoted are getting impatient, reported Commander Jai Park, Minho's younger brother. Hae-yun is talking about starting the attacks whether we're ready or not. What's our status? Kyung asked Dain. We have 200 ships ready for combat, she reported. The resonance weapons can crack Vorthak crystal cities from orbit. The nanoviruses will cut Nexari hive minds apart. And the quantum disruptors... She paused. The quantum disruptors can kill luminals permanently. Kyung thought about that. The luminals were beings made of pure energy. Until now, everyone thought they couldn't be killed, only dispersed. The quantum disruptors changed that. How? Many targets? He asked. 17 star systems. If we hit them all at once, the galaxy won't be able to respond in time to save them. And Hae-yun's plan? Commander Park looked uncomfortable. She wants to test the Worldbreaker protocol. Everyone in the room went quiet. The Worldbreaker was Dane's most terrible creation. It was a weapon that could make stars explode, destroying entire solar systems. That would kill billions, Kyung said. That's the point, Commander Park said. Hae-yun says the galaxy needs to understand the price of betraying humanity. She says we need to hurt them so badly that they'll never dare to lie about us again. Kyung looked out the window at Earth again. Somewhere down there, children played in parks and went to school and dreamed of growing up to explore the stars. They deserved better than to inherit a galaxy full of fear and death. But somewhere out there, aliens lived on worlds that had been built with human help. Worlds that had been made better because humans had believed in friendship and cooperation. Those aliens had watched humans be exiled and done nothing to help. Sir? Dane asked. What are your orders? Before Kyung could answer, new alarms started ringing throughout the base. The communication officer's voice came over the speakers. All stations, we have ships approaching. It's Hae-yun Bay and the devoted fleet. Through the windows, Kyung could see them coming. 43 black ships moving through the asteroid field like sharks through dark water. Each ship was painted with the same symbol, a broken heart surrounded by flames. Open a channel, Kyung ordered. Hae-yun's face appeared on the main screen. She was 21 years old now, but her eyes looked ancient. The scar from the explosion that killed her mother ran down the left side of her face like a permanent tear. Uncle Kyung, she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something terrible beneath the calm. It's time. Hae-yun, we should wait. We should think about this more. I've been thinking about it for 15 years, she said. Every day I think about my mother dying in my arms. Every day I think about the friends who were taken from me. Every day I think about the lies they told about us. Your mother made me promise not to let you become consumed by hate. Hae-yun smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. I'm not consumed by hate, Uncle. I'm filled with love. Love for my mother. Love for all the humans who died. Love for the truth that no one wanted to hear. And love demands justice. This isn't justice. This is revenge. Sometimes, Hae-yun said, they're the same thing. The communication cut off. Around the asteroid base, the devoted ships took up attack positions. On the base itself, thousands of humans stopped their work to watch and wait. Kyung looked at his officers. They were all waiting for his decision. Start the war now with Heyun, or try to stop her and risk civil war among humans, sir? Dain asked. Again. Kyung thought about his sister Nari, who had died protecting alien children during the evacuation. He thought about all the humans who had spent 15 years building weapons instead of exploring the stars. He thought about the galaxy that had thrown them away like garbage. Send the attack orders to all bases, he said finally. We launch in 6 hours. All targets? Commander Park asked. Kyung nodded. All targets, as his officers rushed to carry out the orders. Kyung floated alone in the war room. The holographic displays showed 17 star systems, each one containing billions of lives. In 6 hours, the galaxy would learn that human devotion could be a beautiful thing. But human wrath was something else entirely, something that could shatter the fate of worlds. The first screams came from Vorthak Prime at exactly 1432 Galactic Standard Time. Heon Bay stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Wrath, watching as the planet's crystal cities began to crack and fall. Resonance weapons are working perfectly, reported her tactical officer. The Vorthak buildings are turning into weapons against themselves. Heon nodded, her scarred face showing no emotion. Below them, the most beautiful cities in the galaxy were destroying themselves from the inside out. The crystal towers that had taken thousands of years to grow were singing death songs as they crumbled into dust. Any response from their military? She asked. Confused panic. They don't understand what's happening to their cities. Some are trying to evacuate, others are trying to fight something they can't see. Through the ship's communication system, Heian could hear reports from the other attack groups. 16 more star systems were under attack at the same moment. Humanity had kept its promise to show the galaxy what betrayal really cost. Commander Bay, came a transmission from one of her captains. We've found a group of Vorthak trying to protect their young in the ruins of Crystal City 7. What are your orders? Hyun looked at the tactical display. On the screen, she could see thermal signatures of adult Vorthak surrounding smaller ones, using their own bodies as shields against the falling crystal debris. Leave them alone, she said. We're not here to murder children. Ma'am, you heard me. Protect the young ones if you can. This is about justice, not slaughter. Across the galaxy, the attacks continued. On Nexari colony worlds, the nanoviruses had done their work perfectly. Millions of Nexari drones woke up to find themselves suddenly alone in their own minds for the first time in their lives. The hive mind that had connected them since birth was gone, cut apart by invisible machines. Smaller than dust, some went insane immediately. Others sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what individual thought felt like. A few, surprisingly, began to smile. The Nexari are sending surrender signals from 12 colonies, reported another captain. But they're not coordinated anymore. Each colony is acting independently. Accept their surrenders, Heian ordered, but keep the virus active. Let them learn what it's like to be individuals. In the luminal energy fields near the galactic core, quantum disruptors were doing something that had never been done before. Beings made of pure energy, who had existed for millions of years, were simply stopping. Not dispersing like they normally did when damaged, but actually dying. The few luminals who escaped the attack zones sent desperate messages across the galaxy. For the first time in their existence, they knew fear. Captain Minho Park, now 60 years old, received the emergency message on Earth while he was having dinner with his family. His grandson was telling him about school when the communication device started flashing red. Minho here, he said, stepping away from the table. Captain, this is Admiral Chen on Luna Base. We're getting reports from across the galaxy. Someone is attacking Confederation worlds. Who's attacking them? We are, sir. It's the devoted fleet. Minho felt his blood go cold. He had feared this day would come, but he had hoped they would have more time. How bad? He asked. 17. Systems under attack. Early reports suggest massive casualties. The weapons being used? They're specifically designed to target each species' weaknesses. Minho closed his eyes. I'll be there in 2 hours. When he arrived at Luna Base, the situation room was chaos. Screens showed star charts with red markers spreading across the galaxy. Each red marker represented a world under attack. Where's Admiral Nam? Minho asked. He's with the attack fleet, Admiral Chen replied, along with most of our military leadership. And the moderates? Taman O is trying to contact Confederation leaders, but most are too busy dealing with the attacks to listen. The few who are responding are demanding we call off our forces immediately. Minho studied the tactical displays. The attacks were brilliantly planned and perfectly executed. Each strike force knew exactly how to hurt their targets the most. Get me a ship, he said. The fastest one we have. Where are you going? To stop this before it gets worse. Dr. Hana Kim and engineer Yuna Choi were waiting for him when he arrived at the docking bay. Both women were older now, like him, but they had the same determined expressions they had worn 30 years ago when they first flew into a stellar storm to save alien lives. You can't do this alone, Hana said. The whole galaxy is about to go to war, Yuna added. If we don't stop, Heian now billions will die. She won't listen to me, Minho said. I'm just the old captain who believed in peace. You're the man who showed the galaxy that humans were worth knowing, Hana corrected. Some of them still remember that. They took the fastest ship they could find, a small courier vessel called the Second Dawn. As they flew toward the coordinates of the nearest battle zone, they listened to radio transmissions from across the galaxy. The reports were horrible. Entire cities destroyed, millions dead or displaced, species that had existed for millennia suddenly facing extinction. But there were other reports too, stories of humans in the attack fleets who refused orders to fire on civilian targets, stories of human soldiers helping alien refugees escape the battle zones, stories of humans who were fighting in the war but still trying to minimize the death and suffering. They're not monsters, Yuna said, listening to the transmissions. Even in their anger, they're still trying to be human. That's what makes this so tragic, Minho replied. They think they're doing the right thing. They found Heiyun's fleet in orbit around New Sol Colony. The planet where she had grown up was now a memorial world, with the ruins of the colony preserved exactly as they had been left after the bombing. Eternal Wrath, this is the Second Dawn, Minho transmitted. Requesting permission to come aboard. There was a long silence. Then Haiyan's voice came over the radio. Captain Park, I wondered when you would show up. I need to talk to you, Heian, face to face. Come aboard then, but know that nothing you say will change what we're doing. The docking bay of the Eternal. Wrath was filled with young humans preparing for battle. They all wore black uniforms with the broken heart symbol of the devoted. When they saw Minho, many of them stopped to salute him. Haiyan was waiting for him in her ready room. She looked exactly like her mother had at the same age, except for the scar and the terrible sadness in her eyes. Hello, Captain, she said. Thank you for coming. Heiyun, you have to stop this. You're destroying everything your mother believed in. My mother is dead, Heyun said calmly. Killed by people who claim to be our friends. Everything she believed in died with her. Minho sat down across from her. I knew your mother. She made your father promise not to let you become consumed by hatred. I'm not consumed by hatred, Hyeon said. I'm guided by love. Love for the humans who died because we trusted too much. Love for the children who will never again have to watch their parents die for alien lies. And what about love for the alien children who are dying right now because of your attacks? For the first time, Hyeon's calm expression cracked slightly. That's different. How is it different? They started this war. We're just finishing it. Minho leaned forward. Hyeon, I have something to show you. He activated a data pad and displayed the information that Taemin O had gathered, the evidence that proved the Purist Alliance had lied about humans, the proof that most aliens had been fooled, just like humans had been. This proves that the majority of the galaxy was deceived, he said. Most of them aren't our enemies. They're victims too. Hyeon looked at the data for a long time. It doesn't matter now. The attacks have already started. The galaxy will never trust us again after this. It's not too late to... Alarms suddenly started ringing throughout the ship. A tactical officer ran into the ready room. Commander Bay! We have incoming ships. It's Admiral Nam and the main fleet. They're demanding we withdraw immediately. Through the ready room's window, Minho could see hundreds of ships approaching. The full military might of humanity was converging on this spot. Are they here to stop us or join us? Hyeon asked. The tactical officer looked uncertain. Both, ma'am. Admiral Nam is ordering us to cease attacks on civilian targets, but he's also deploying the World Breaker device. Hyeon went very still. He's what? The weapon that can destroy stars, ma'am. He's positioning it near the Vorthax system. Minho felt the blood drain from his face. Hyeon, if he uses that weapon, it will kill everyone in the entire system. Billions of lives. Including the ones we just saved, Heyun whispered. For the first time since her mother's death, Hyeon Bae looked like the scared little girl she had once been. The war she had started was spinning out of control, becoming something even more terrible than she had intended. Outside the window, the two human fleets faced each other in the dark of space. Between them lay the burned remains of New Seoul, colony where a mother had died teaching her daughter that some bonds could never be broken. Now those bonds were about to shatter the fate of worlds. Minho Park stood in the memorial garden where Nari Bae had died 15 years ago. The crystal flowers still grew here, planted by Vorthak friends who had loved the human woman who taught them about kindness. Now they glowed softly in the light of the two moons, beautiful and eternal. Hyeon Bae knelt beside her mother's grave marker, her hand resting on the stone. Behind her, the World Breaker device hummed with terrible energy, ready to turn the nearby star into a weapon that would destroy everything within 50 billion kilometers. She used to bring me here when I was small, Hyeon said without looking up. She would tell me stories about the different species, about how wonderful it would be when we all lived together in peace. Your mother was a wise woman, Minho said carefully. He could see Sunho Bae standing at the edge of the garden, his face hollow with years of grief and anger. Wise, Hyeon repeated. Yes. So wise that she died protecting the children of the EID species that would exile us. So wise that she believed in friendship with people who were planning to destroy our home. She died protecting children, Hyeon, not species, not politics, children. Hyeon finally looked up at him. Do you know how many children have died in the past 3 days because of my attacks? Minho felt his heart break at the pain in her voice. Tell me. 67,412, she said. I have the exact count. Every single one of them. Tears started falling down her face. I told my people not to target civilians. I told them to protect the young ones. But war is chaos, Captain. Good intentions don't stop falling buildings from crushing the innocent. Around them, both human fleets waited in tense silence. Admiral Kyung-nam's ships had the Worldbreaker device aimed at the Vorthak home system. Haeyeon's devoted fleet had weapons aimed at a dozen other worlds. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see if humanity would choose to become the monsters their enemies claimed they were. There's still time to stop, Minho said. The Confederation Council is meeting right now on Luna Base. Kethlan has presented the evidence about the Purist Alliance. They know the truth now. The truth? Haeyeon laughed bitterly. The truth is that they believed lies about us because it was convenient. The truth is that they watched us be exiled and did nothing because it was safe. The truth is that friendship means nothing when fear speaks louder. That's not the whole truth, came a new voice. Everyone turned to see 3 figures walking through the garden. They were Nexari, but they walked alone instead of in the connected groups that their species always moved in. The nanovirus had separated them from their hive mind, making them individuals for the first time in their lives. We know you, Haeyeon said, recognizing them. You're the children my father saved during the evacuation. Yes, said the first Nexari. We've spent 15 years trying to understand why he risked his life for us when his own world was burning. The second Nexari stepped forward. When your virus cut us from the hive mind, we were terrified. We had never been alone in our thoughts before. But then we remembered something. What? Minho asked. We remembered what it felt like to be individuals that day, the third Nexari said. Your father didn't save us because we were part of a hive. He saved us because each of us was a person worth saving. Sunho Bei walked toward his daughter, his face wet with tears. I had forgotten that, he said. In all my anger, I had forgotten why I saved them. Dad? Haeyeon stood up, confused. Your mother didn't die for politics or species or alliances, Sunho said. She died because she saw 3 scared children and couldn't let them be hurt. That's what humans do, Haeyeon. That's what makes us human. But they betrayed us, Haeyeon said. They exiled us. They lied about us. Some of them did, Minho agreed. But look around you. He gestured to the memorial garden. As they watched, more figures emerged from the shadows. Vorthak scientists led by Kethlan, whose crystal body now bore scars from years of fighting to prove human innocence. Luminal energy, beings who had somehow survived the quantum disruptors, their light dim with grief for their dead friends. We came as soon as we could, Kethlan said, his musical voice filled with sadness. We've been trying to reach you for days. The Council has voted to reverse the exile. The Purist Alliance leaders are being arrested. Humans are welcome in the galaxy again. Too late. Admiral Kyung-nam's voice came over the communication system. 15 years too late. The Worldbreaker device is charging. In 10 minutes, the Vorthak system dies, and then we move on to the next one. Uncle, no, Haeyeon said into her communication device. There are billions of innocent people in that system. They should have thought of that before they threw us away, Kyung replied. Haeyeon looked at the assembled aliens, then at her father, then at Minho. They really didn't know, did they? Most of them really believed the lies. Fear makes people do terrible things, Minho said. But so does love, when it's pointed in the wrong direction. I've killed so many people, Hyun whispered. In my mother's name, I've become the monster they said we were. No, said the first Nexari child. You became something else. You became what humans become when their devotion is broken and turned into a weapon. Your mother's devotion was to protecting life, Sunho said to his daughter. Mine became devoted to protecting you. But I forgot that protecting you meant teaching you to be better than our enemies, not worse. Haeun walked to the control panel for the World Breaker device. The terrible weapon hummed with enough energy to destroy a star and everything around it. If I shut this down, she said, how do we know they won't betray us again? We don't, Minho said honestly. Trust is a leap of faith. It always has been. But if I don't shut it down, I'll be exactly what the Purist Alliance said humans were. A contamination. A disease that destroys everything it touches. Haeun's hand hovered over the shutdown controls. Around her, humans and aliens waited to see what choice she would make. In the distance, two human fleets faced each other with weapons. Charged and ready. What would Mom do? She asked her father. Sunho thought about his wife, the woman who had died protecting alien children even as her own world burned. She would choose to save lives, even if it meant forgiving people who didn't deserve forgiveness. Even if it meant trusting people who had already betrayed her once. Especially then, Sunho said, because that's the only way the cycle of hurt ever stops. Haeun pressed the shutdown button. The World Breaker device powered down with a sound like a giant sighing. Across both human fleets, weapons went offline. The immediate threat of genocide passed. But Haeun wasn't finished. She walked to the center of the memorial garden and activated a different device, one that Minho recognized with growing horror. Haeun, what are you doing? The galaxy will never trust humans again after what we've done, she said calmly. There will always be fear, always be suspicion. Someone has to pay the price for all the death and suffering. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She looked at the assembled aliens. I'm going to destroy myself and this entire memorial site. Let my death be the end of human anger. Let it be the price we pay for peace. Haeun, no. Sunho ran toward her, but she held up a hand to stop him. Dad, you saved alien children when you could have saved only humans. That's who we really are. That's what we need to remember. She smiled at him, and for a moment she looked like the little girl who used to sing Vorthak songs in the park. Tell the galaxy that human devotion can build as well as destroy. Tell them that some bonds really are eternal. The explosion was small but complete. When the light faded, Haeun was gone, and with her the last of the weapons that could have destroyed worlds. In her place, the crystal flowers her mother had planted began to grow brighter, as if drawing energy from her sacrifice. Sunho Bay knelt where his daughter had stood, crying for the second time in 15 years. She didn't have to die, he said. Yes, she did, said Kethlan gently. Not because she was guilty, but because she loved you all too much to let you carry the weight of what was done in anger. 1 year later, Minho Park stood in the same memorial garden, but now it was different. Humans and aliens worked together to tend the crystal flowers that had spread across the entire planet. Where New Soul Colony had once been, a new city was, growing, one built by all species working together. The 3 Nexari who had been saved by Sunho Bay now served as ambassadors, teaching other species about the individual worth that humans had shown them. Kethlan led a new organization dedicated to preventing the kind of lies that had started the war. In the center of the garden, a new monument stood. It showed a human woman protecting children of different species, with words carved in every galactic language. Some bonds are eternal, some love transcends death, some devotion can heal even the deepest wounds. Sunho Bei visited the monument every day. He was older now and tired, but he had found a new purpose. He taught young beings of all species about the dangers of letting devotion become hatred, and about the courage it took to choose forgiveness over revenge. "Do you think she was right?" he asked Minho one evening as they sat together watching the sunset. "Do you think her sacrifice was worth it?" Minho looked around at the mixed species children playing in the gardens, at the humans and aliens working together to build something beautiful from the ashes of war. "Ask me in 100 years," he said, "when these children are old."